Perhaps this is the coding language everyone should start with. We're looking at Python today on CodeLab. I'm Mark, and welcome to CodeLab. CodeLab is about building with code, and if you're a coding newbie, this is a great place to learn about different languages and different coding techniques. The best way to learn about coding is by actually writing code. So I'm going to invite you to code along with me as we work through some basics in the Python programming language. Python's a great language for beginners, and you already have everything you need to get started. So flip open your laptop, put on your favorite coding pants, and let's write some Python. Before we get started, a quick reminder to subscribe to the Tech Learning Network channel, where we post new videos on coding, digital design, and cloud productivity each week. And now, let's go code some Python. The first thing we're going to do is make sure we have Python on our machine. On a Mac, the way I'm going to do that is hit Command and Spacebar, and open my terminal by typing terminal. The terminal allows me to communicate with the computer via text. To test for Python, I'm going to type Python 3-V. Most of you will see a response something like this that looks a bit of a mess, but what it does tell me is that Python is installed on this machine. You'll notice too that at the bottom there's now 3 brackets before my cursor. That indicates I'm in Python interactive mode. And here, for example, I could type a Python command like print and then my name, and press enter, and notice the response. It prints out the word Mark. If you're on a Windows machine, it's just a little bit different. You're going to try the command python --version in your terminal, and that should indicate whether or not you have Python installed on your machine. Now, if you have a much older machine, you might not have Python version 3, in which case drop the 3 from the command and just type Python-V on the Mac or Python-version on a Windows machine. Now, if you don't have Python installed, where you don't get a response similar to what you saw on my screen, you can go to the site python.org, and you can download and install all the Python tools. The instructions are right on the site. Let's again go into Python interactive mode. I can do that by simply typing Python 3. And there it notes that we have Python version 3.8.2, and it also gives me a couple of commands I can type here in interactive mode. For example, the copyright command will give me the copyright information for Python. The license command will give me all the information about the Python license. Finally, I can type any Python command in here, and it'll be processed. So before, we use the print command to print some output. Mark is a human being. So before I press return, take a careful look at the command. This format is a standard format for Python and a lot of other languages. The command we're issuing is print, and then in parentheses is the argument for the command, essentially what's being printed. We have in quotes a sentence. When I press enter, that sentence will be output directly. And there you can see Mark is a human being. Now, obviously, this isn't very interesting until we actually have Python doing some calculations and computations for us. For example, we could put here without the quotes as an argument, 2 times 8 divided by 0.2 plus 97 times 24. Bet you can't do that in your head. I'll press enter. And notice it gave us the result of 2408.0. I have no idea if that's correct. I'm going to assume it is, but it's not math I want to do on my own. Let's do one more example here in interactive mode. I'm going to create what's called a variable. A variable is just a holding place for information. So here I've set the variable name to the value Mark. This is known loosely as an assignment statement. I'm assigning a value, in this case the string inside the quotes mark, to the variable name. Now, that's stored in memory. I can use that in a print statement like this. My name is plus name. Now, what do you think is going to happen here? Notice that the string my name is inside the quotes, and then I've added to that the variable name. So notice it was able to retrieve the value stored in name and post it in the response. So we get my name is Mark. By the way, the plus sign here is not called addition or plus, but it's known as the concatenation operator. When we glue something to a string, as we did here, it's known as concatenation. You can use that term at dinner and impress your family. I'm using Visual Studio Code. This is a generic text editor that's actually made by Microsoft that can be used to code in a number of different languages. For example, you might have used Visual Studio Code to code HTML and JavaScript to code a website. In this case, I'm simply using it to code Python. Let's get started. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it firstpython.py. Now, by the way, you can use any text editor and simply save a file, but the important thing is here that it's got to end in .py, because that's how your system, either Windows or Mac, is going to recognize that this is a Python file. So now you can see my cursor is flashing in line 1 of the file, and now I can enter code here just like I would if I were in interactive mode. So for example, let's add some print statements. Print. Python is a lot of fun. We'll add a second statement. Learning Python is easy. And let's set a variable. So now we have the variable language, and we've assigned it the string Python. So Python is a great place to start coding. And there's my script. You may have noticed that Visual Studio Code is trying to help me as I write the code. For right now, you can kind of ignore that, but as you get more advanced, it's really helpful so you don't have to commit everything to memory. So I've written this file. Let's make sure it's saved with File and Save. And this is now written on my drive. I'm going to go back to my terminal. And let's quit interactive mode. And let's move to the folder that contains this particular firstpython.py documents. So right now I'm in my home folder. I'm going to go to my documents folder. And in my documents folder, there's a folder called Python. And if we look at the contents of the Python folder, there's firstpython.py. So now I'm going to manually run that program using the Python interpreter. What's going to happen when I press enter is the terminal using Python is going to interpret the file I just wrote line by line. Let's take a look. And the mistake I made is I used the Python instead of the Python 3 command. But if I use the Python 3 command, there you see the output. Python is a lot of fun. Learning Python is easy. Python is a great place to start coding. Now, I want to do one more thing. I want to purposely introduce an error here so you can see what happens. I'm going to spell the variable language wrong the second time that I use it. As you know in coding, everything has to be letter perfect in order for the computer to properly interpret your code. So now the second time it hits language, it's not going to recognize that variable because we didn't set the variable with that setting. I want you to see the error so when you see one, you recognize it and you're not afraid of it. So there's our friend the terminal again. And remember, we've introduced an error to our code and we've saved it. So now when we try and run it, notice we get the output from the first couple of lines, and then we get something called a traceback. And this is what happens when you get an error. Notice, though, it tells you exactly where the error is. This is a bit of a misnomer. It shows you where it thinks the error is, but what it actually is showing you is where it stopped processing. So if the error caused it to stop processing in a place other than exactly where the error was, this might not be accurate. But for our purposes, and as you're a beginner, you'll find this is pretty accurate. And it says the error is right on line 4. So it says line 4, and then it prints out the line where the error is, and it says language misspelled is not defined. So I know exactly where to look in order to correct this error. Go back to the code, correct the error. Let's save. Bring back our terminal. Run the program through the Python interpreter again, and all is good in the world. There are no errors. Let's create a second Python script. I'm going to call this variables.py. I want to talk a little bit about variables. And you have to think about variables as like storage boxes for information. Now, we're going to hard code the information in our variables. There's a couple of different types of variables in Python. The first is a string variable. In here, we can store a string. A string is surrounded by quotes. Tech, learning, network. We also can store values. So my age, for example, is 48. So now age has the integer value 48. We can store numbers with decimals, known as floating point numbers. My GPA was, I'll lie and say 3.1. I actually graduated in the half of the class that made the upper half possible. It was a little lower than that. And let's finally store a Boolean. A Boolean is a true-false value. Has to begin with a capital letter there. So those are our three types of variables. I'll put comments in here that'll be ignored by the processor. If we use a pound sign, it's just a comment that's ignored. So this is a string variable. This is an integer variable. This is a floating point variable. And this is a Boolean or a true-false variable. So we have all these values stored, and now we actually can manipulate the values and output them if we want. For example, let's say it's my birthday. Well, if it's my birthday, then we're going to add 1 to my age. When you see the equal sign or the assignment operator, we're going to evaluate the right side of that operator first. So age plus 1. Age is 48. We add 1. Age is 49. So now we could add a print statement. Congratulations. You are now. Remember, we'll concatenate the value of age, which is now 49, and then the end of our string. So this line now reads, print, congratulations, you are now. We end the string, we concatenate the value of age, and it'll output 49, because we manipulated that, years old. We can also output floating point variables. Your GPA was not, and then we'll add GPA just like that. And we'll just output the string variable for good times, work for. So here in lines 6 through 9, we're accessing the variables we created and either manipulating them or outputting them. Hopefully we don't have any errors, but if we do, we know how to handle it. So let's go back to the terminal and let's output our new program. Don't forget to save. Some text editors save automatically. This one doesn't. Let's bring up our terminal. And now you'll see we have 2 files inside our folder. We're going to run variables.py. And we do have an error. Let's see what it is. In line 7, print congratulations. Well, I spelled congratulations wrong, but that's not the error that it's talking about. And it's saying here that it cannot glue a string to an integer. So we have to do something called a cast. Because this is a numerical variable, we've got to convert it to a string, before it displays. We'll have to do the same thing here. Common error. I've been coding for about 30 years and I'm still making the same mistakes. Actually, probably 35 years now. Wow, I'm old. All right, so let's save. Let's go back to the terminal. Obviously, an error is not tragic. Even experienced programmers get them. And now we get the expected results. Congratulations. I guess that is spelled right. Congratulations, you are now 49 years old. Your GPA was not 3.1. You work for Tech Learning Network. I'm going to do yet another example. So let's create a new file. I'm simply going to call this if.py. Computers make decisions, and the way they make decisions is with conditional statements. Essentially, they determine whether something is true or false. So we're going to use a conditional statement to determine whether or not someone is eligible to vote. I'm going to simplify this a little bit because you're eligible to vote if you're 18 or older. And I'm going to leave citizenship and all that other jazz alone for the sake of this simple example. So let's set an age in a variable. Let's say 21. And now we're going to use an if statement, and we're going to test if age is greater than 18. Because if that's true, you are eligible to vote. If it's false, you're not eligible to vote. So I'm simply going to print out here, print, you are eligible to vote. The way this little program is going to work, it's going to assign the value 21 to the variable age, and then it's going to determine, is 21 greater than 18? That's true, so it's going to print what's indented underneath the if statement. Let's go ahead and give this a quick run in the terminal. I've saved. There's my terminal. There's if.py. We'll run that with the Python 3 command. You are eligible to vote. Now, if we change this value to 12, what do you think is going to happen with this program? The statement is now going to evaluate as false because 12 is not greater than 18. So it's not going to run the code. Watch. Run it again, and we get no result whatsoever. So what we want to do is add what's called an else block. This is what happens if the statement is not evaluated as true. I've saved. Now in our terminal, if we run it again, we get you are not eligible to vote. This is the simplest form of a conditional. You can probably think of millions of examples where conditionals can be used in code. For example, is your high score greater than the high score? Then your score is the new high score. If not, the high score doesn't change. Conditionals are a really important programming structure. Now, as we get to the end of our time together, let's create a program that actually does something interesting and get some input from the user. So I'm going to call this dogyears.py. This is my dog years calculator. You've probably heard the idea that a dog year is 7 human years. So we're going to ask the user to enter an age of their dog in human years. So age equals input, how old is your dog in human years? So what's going to happen from this statement is in the terminal, it's actually going to display how old is your dog in human years. Whatever the user enters is going to be stored in age. So now we're going to say age equals, and remember what is entered is a string, so we're going to make this into an integer value, int age times 7. So that'll take whatever the user entered, convert it to an integer, and multiply it by 7. Now we'll print out the results. Your dog is, and now we're going to have to convert that back to a string, so it can be output with a string in dog years. All right, let's see if I made any errors or if this compiles correctly. So we'll open up our terminal. And there is our dog years program. So Python 3, dogyears.py. How old is your dog in human years? Let's say 10. Your dog is 70 in dog years. Let's try it one more time. How old is your dog in human years? 7. Your dog is 49 in dog years. So we've been able to write a useful program that actually takes human input in Python. Thanks for watching this episode of CodeLab. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Python programming language and were able to get some of your programs working. We'll be coming out with more episodes on Python in the near future. In the meantime, keep on coding. For CodeLab, I'm Mark. Thanks for watching.